All right, let's get started. Welcome to the Toronto Real Abilities Film Festival. Just give me one second. I'm getting some feedback. Let me just fix that and I'll be right with you. One moment. Okay, here we go. Sorry, the joy and stress of technology. So welcome to the Real Abilities Toronto Film Festival. My name is Liv Mendelson, and I'm the artistic director of this festival. And on behalf of our presenting partner, the Miles Nadal JCC, I'm thrilled to welcome you to our 5th annual festival and our first online festival. I am just going to describe myself visually. I am a short white woman with frizzy brown COVID hair, wearing a navy and white striped t-shirt. We are very glad to be able to offer this festival online. Thank you to our sponsors, the Government of Canada, Government of Ontario, the P&L Odette Foundation, the Toronto Arts Council, Autism Ontario, and our media partners, Accessible Media Inc., AI Media, and Mohawk College Accessible Media Production Program. RAFF Toronto's home base, our festival home base, is here in Toronto, Toronto, in the Dish with One Spoon territory, a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. We acknowledge the diversity of the First Peoples of this area and honor them as stewards of this land, builders of community, and shapers and keepers of culture. Wherever you are watching, take some time to consider the territory you are living on. We also encourage you to check out the work of and support our friends at Imaginative. Imaginative is the world's largest presenter of Indigenous screen content. This event is co-presented by our friends at Autism Ontario and Hot Docs International Film Festival. We thank them for being our community partners. Please note that CART and ASL are both available for this event. Thank you to Ryan Kraft and Amanda Hyde, our ASL interpreters, and to our captioner tonight, Alessandra. To view the captions, please click on the CC button at the bottom of your screen. I'm very excited to welcome and introduce this evening's moderator, Rabbi Ruti Regan. Rabbi Regan is a disabled feminist rabbi working at the margins of Jewish community. She runs the weekly Parsha Chat Torah Study Twitter chat, trains Jewish clergy and educators on disability inclusion, and researches disability-informed ritual at the Harvard Law School Project on Disability. She is also the author of realsocialskills.org, a blog reclaiming the traditionally ableist concept of social skills by taking it literally as the process of learning to do right by one another. Rabbi Regan was ordained by the Jewish Theological Seminary in 2017, and prior to that studied at the Drisha and the Conservative Yeshiva in Jerusalem. If you have questions for Rabbi Regan and the panelists, please enter those in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If you're having tech difficulties, you can troubleshoot with our staff in the chat or email raffhelp, RAFF-HELP, @mnjcc.org. It is now my pleasure to turn this over to Rabbi Regan to introduce our panel.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here to have this conversation about autism on film. I would, at this point, like to ask panelists to introduce themselves because I think that it is always beneficial to have people speak with their own voice. So if you could take a minute or so to introduce yourself, including a visual description of what you look like, then I'll come back with a visual description of what I look like, and I'll start asking all of you questions. We're going to go in the order that was listed in the document with bios that we got. So let's start with Kat.
Hi, my name is Kat Singer. I'm a Toronto-based queer and non-binary multimedia artist, and I made this film as part of a Restoring Autism initiative, and my pronouns are they, them, and what do I look like? I am pale, white, and I have purple hair, and I'm wearing glasses with transparent frames right now. What do I look like? I am...
Great. Okay. Thank you. Now let's go to Kristen.
Yeah, my name is Christine. I'm medium height, white, very pale, blue eyes, short, light brown hair. I'm a translator professional. Have got 3 boys and a very hectic working life.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Aya.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello from Iceland. My name is Bjarne Lúðvíksdóttir, but that's quite difficult. So I have a nickname that is Aya, which I use when I go abroad because nobody can say Bjarne. I'm a director and a producer. I'm the director and producer of the film Seeing the Unseen. And yeah, I'm a mother of a boy which is autistic. And I have also a daughter which works and lives abroad. I live in Iceland. And I'm medium height. I have blonde hair. I have blue eyes. Yeah, I'm very normal looking. Thank you.
Great. Christian, are you on the call?
Christian could unfortunately not be here, but he sent best regards. He's the director and producer of Seeing the Unseen as well. So I will be taking answers about that.
Okay. I know there's some question about that. I just wanted to make sure that if he was here, I was not leaving him out. Okay. Now, Patti.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Patti Douglas, and I am a white, cisgender-looking woman with black frame glasses, hoop earrings, a black sleeveless shirt, and light brown hair that's pulled back off of my face today. I lead the project Restoring Autism in Education, and I'm an assistant professor at Brandon University, that's in Brandon, Manitoba. And my work engages the arts to speak back to exclusionary systems and deficit understandings of autism. I am the mom of a son who attracted the label of autism, as well as another son, a former special education teacher, and I also identify myself as neurodivergent. So that's a little bit about me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, thank you. I'm still Rabbi Ruti Regan, and one of the things that matters most to me, both personally and professionally, is creating a culture that treats disabled people as fully human. And I do that in a number of ways and in a number of contexts. And I'm really happy for the opportunity to come here and have this conversation with all of you. And just in terms of visual description, I'm, white, vaguely fat. I have brown hair, brown eyes. My eyes are kind of wonky and misaligned. It's very noticeable in person, somewhat less so on Zoom. and I'm wearing a yarmulke, which attracts certain kinds of attention in person. And so wanted to start off by asking a question to filmmakers about audience. When you were making your films or participating in films, which audiences did you have in mind in terms of who you wanted to speak to and who you wanted to reach? And how did you think about that? And again, let's go in the same order. And if people want to pass, that's fine. Nobody ever has to answer any question if they don't want to. Does that make sense? Awesome.
Awesome. So this is Kat again, and I made Unquiet Hands. And when I was making it, I wasn't really thinking of an audience. The project had come my way kind of last minute. And all I knew is that I want to make something about, my world and communicate. But this morning today was the first time my dad has seen the film. I have managed to keep the film secret from a lot of people from my inner circle, because I feel like sometimes disclosing my autism hurts them and their reputation in some ways. And my dad was wonderful today. We had a great conversation, but it's something that still seems to be really interesting to me, that I'm still working through, about even having an audience and putting my name on films. If you've noticed, I haven't really put my name on this film, but yes, I think that where I want to get is where I can express myself in front of anyone, no matter what, and just declare that this is me, I'm proudly myself.
Visibility definitely has a price. So yeah, thank you.
In regards of seeing the unseen, I'm the director and producer of the film. In the beginning of our shoot, our target market was the public, the public that didn't see the unseen, that didn't know autism that well. That was in the beginning, but interesting is, and I want to give the voice over to Christine, because she's one of the 17 women that was in the film, and she really felt it and she really breathed it after we premiered the movie in Iceland, the impact and what kind of people were like approaching her more than me as a director. They were more approaching Christine as a participant in the movie. Christine, can you tell them a little bit about that, the audience? Christine, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, my internet just went out. I have no idea why. I'm here.
Did you hear the question?
No, I didn't.
So can you tell us about the audience after we premiered the documentary, Seeing the Unseen? The people that approached you, that were calling you and thanking you, and what kind of people were that?
Right, it's actually a little different than the question I had in mind, although I would also be interested in that. The question I wanted to ask is, when you were thinking about what you wanted to say in the film, what kind of audiences were you thinking about reaching? Who were you talking to?
Mostly I was talking to people who could be on the spectrum but have prejudice, because there's been this huge talk about people not being labeled,
Right.
but and that sort of overlooks the fact that sometimes we really need those labels. that sometimes these labels are beneficial to us, because without the labels, without the proper diagnosis, you can't get the help that the system that you have the right to in the system and all that. Yeah, so basically I've always been very openly and vocally autistic once I received my own diagnosis, and I wanted to talk to the parents of girls, because I had a very strong feeling that girls were underdiagnosed, generally speaking. And those were the people who contacted me, basically. Mothers, aunts even, and a lot of old acquaintances got in touch saying, thank you for making the film. I'm going for a diagnosis. It's all about knowing who you are.
There's so much power in a name and in having words to describe things, because when you have a word to describe something, you can have a conversation about what you think that
Exactly.
means and what it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Let's see who else. So, Aya, did you have thoughts on audience?
Yeah, in the beginning, when we were starting, when we were just in the blue beginning, like I said earlier, we wanted to target the Icelandic market. It's not that big. We are in total 300,000, very, very small country. So we wanted to help them get to know women on the autism spectrum through the 17 women that are in the movie, in the documentary, so they would more understand the diversity and open up and also understand more that it's not the extreme cases always that we're talking about. There are mild cases as well, but they are struggling, and we wanted to tell their stories so they would understand. It's the woman who's struggling in the workplaces. It's the woman who's struggling in the relationship. It's so many side of it, and basically the target market was the Icelandic audience. And fortunately, when we premiered our documentary here in Iceland, we had the COVID, we had the shutdown, and all of the public were sitting down watching the movie. We're so lucky, and we got really there were many people watching the movie, so we got a lot of feedback, which was really good.
There's so much of this is culturally specific also. I know that sometimes I'm trying to reach a very broad audience, and sometimes I'm specifically trying to reach the American Jewish community, and it occurs to me that I'm not actually sure whether Iceland or the American Jewish community is more people. So yeah, there's that. But the reason I wanted to ask about audience is because I found that in media that's by and for autistic people, or media that's by and for disabled people more generally, there's often a real difference in perspective that can be oriented towards the assumption that the people who most need to understand disability are disabled people themselves. And I've also found that in media by and for disabled people, there's often more of a focus on justice and more of a focus on talking about distinguishing between the conditions we have and the conditions we live under as a result of the way others choose to treat us. And I know that a couple of the films that were really influential for me personally is there's a film made by Mel Baggs several years ago. And for translators, Mel, M-E-L, Baggs, B-A-G-G-S. And her film, In My Language, was this short film talking about her relationship to objects and being in constant movement and communication with the world on that level. And it was really the first time I'd ever seen anyone who looked like me, moved like me, thought like me, depicted positively, and depicted it as a way that was not an illustration of someone else's tragic story. And there's been a lot of other disabled media that's by disabled people trying to reach a disabled audience that's been really influential in shaping who I am and how I move through the world. And so I'm wondering, are there disabled creators or works by and for disabled people that you feel have influenced the works that you've been working on? And let's go in the reverse order, starting with Patti.
Hi. I was also really influenced by Mel Baggs and grieve their death very much. And I, on the Restoring project, so this is Patti talking, on the Restoring project, the first and foremost thing that is important on the project is that these are films that center autistic voices, and that are, depending on the filmmaker's level of permission or wish or desire to share those films in different places, like film festivals, but also they're shared sort of broadly, so taken to educators, for example, and educators, so they're geared toward shifting deficit understandings of autism and of disability and shifting practices. So the audiences are really varied for the Restoring project, and autistic folks are at the center of that. So I think I'll just say that and let other people chime in.
And it also sounds like in the role that you're in, it's sometimes less about you deciding what the audience is and more about you supporting other creators in deciding who they want to talk to and how. Is that right?
Yes, yes. So this is it's a research project that is funded through a tri-agency funder called SHIRK. But what I do on the project is filmmakers make the film that's most important to them to make at the time, and they retain copyright, and then there's like ongoing consents. And so many filmmakers choose to share their film broadly. So it's an explicitly social justice oriented project that is looking for change. I identify myself as neurodivergent and live with other disabilities, as well as being a mom and a former teacher. So social justice and changing deficit perceptions is at the center of what I do. And I think that means centering autistic voices, disabled voices, but also respecting the desire of the filmmaker themselves in terms of where they want their film to be shown.
And I'm sure that, like, as somebody else who works a lot in educator space as well as disability community space, I'm sure you and I could have a whole extended conversation about code switching and about the different ways talk and try to teach those perspectives in different contexts. So like resist my urge to go there
Yeah.
much right now, but to be continued, I hope.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Kat, do you have thoughts on disabled voices that influence the work you work on?
I didn't quite identify as disabled until my mid-20s. So a lot of the things that like I draw from some people in the disability community locally in Toronto. And there's a lot of inspiration, people that I find, I don't want to say inspiring, there's a lot of people that I find strength in and that I find encouragement in, but I can't really name names first, because it's just a lot to process. I think that like we do have like some of the support from peers that I got did enable me to start working on things, and I'm seeing a little bit better representation now all around of people representing themselves in film. So I can't name anything, but I'm seeing a little bit of a shift.
Yeah, and I think that also talks about how there's individual types of influences and inspiration in the artistic sense, not in the euphemistic disability sense, but there's also the way that community makes a big difference in shaping perspective. So thank you for naming that as well. Kristen, did you have thoughts on disabled influences on your work in film?
Well, for me, telling these stories was very important from a feminist point of view, just giving autistic women voices, because the focus has always been on the males being autistic. So telling these stories was extremely important, and trying to change the system a bit, making it easier for women and well, for parents to get the correct diagnosis for women. So that was why I took part in this process, because as I say in the film, it's not about me, it's about the coming generations. Trying to change the system from within.
It would definitely be nice if younger people could have certain stories and not the more nasty stories that some of us might have heard about ourselves as young kids.
Yeah.
So
can I just chime in?
Please.
One thing that is starting to happen with the films produced on the Restoring Project is they're making their ways into schools. And so when you talked about, younger people having access to different stories, one thing I think is really important and powerful about film is that you're building an alternative archive, right? That's available then for autistic community and disability community. I just think that's really exciting and important, and film crosses boundaries and borders in ways that, definitely at the moment people can't. So they travel, like your film, Seeing the Unseen too, will travel so widely, which is what's so brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that piggybacking off of that, I think that as important as shifting the story is and putting other stories up there, sometimes the most important thing to teach to young autistic people, especially girls, especially trans kids, I think, or other kids who may have multiple marginalized identities. I think one of the most important things is just teaching people that they can tell their own story and that they can they and other people like them can speak for themselves and can tell a story that might be different than the one that other people in their lives want told about them. Even very well-meaning people can't be our voices, because we can only ever really speak for yourself. And
Yeah,
I think
I quite agree. Can I just make
Please.
one point? I think it's also very important that the young women, well, the kids going for a diagnosis at this point in time can have stories like these to, you know, if you like, mirror themselves in. So if we have something positive to say, if we can provide them with positive success stories in life, then they won't think of this as such a negative thing, as it's always portrayed traditionally, I speak.
like we have lives, not just tragedies.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the weight of living under somebody else's perception of tragedy and of which things are tragic is just, it gets complicated. We need to give people stories that are about a fuller range of what our actual experiences
absolutely.
are.
Yeah.
Liv, do we have time for one more question, or do we need to wrap up?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. So I know that I have very positive feelings about disability identity, disability community, autistic community, and I have increasingly mixed feelings about diagnosis and the role it's played in my life, especially as we're moving into this really scary pandemic where there's all of this talk about ventilator allocation and guidelines, and having that diagnosis in my file scares me a little. And I wonder sometimes if that was really such a good idea. And especially my experience with diagnosis is that it got me some legitimacy in terms of being able to talk about autism without everyone being like, oh, no, you're not. What are you talking about? But the stories that I got that helped me, the narrative and the understandings that helped me came much more from autistic community and disabled community than from medical narrative and from therapeutic understandings of what autism means and what it doesn't and what's different and what isn't. So I'm wondering how you see that. Do you see, I guess, what can diagnosis do and what can't it do, and what's the role of community? Slightly too many questions, but let's see where we can go with this.
Where do you want to start?
Yeah, start with Kristen.
Well, I would not have this diagnosis. I would not have discovered my own autism, except that if I didn't have male children. So that's how, when my son got his diagnosis and I started reading up on it, that's how I discovered it. And that's, it just completely transformed my life for the better. And by and by, I discovered this wonderful, wonderful autistic community out there internationally. And I get what you're saying, but that's a cultural thing, I think.
Yeah, and I think that that's such a common experience for mothers too,
Yeah.
where like sons get identified, sometimes daughters, but more often sons. And then you realize that the stories they're telling about what autistic people are like are very relatable.
Yeah.
And I think that for a lot of younger people coming to community and disability culture first, sometimes happens in that order, but it's just, there's like such a complicated range of experience with diagnosis and where useful information comes from.
Yeah, and also just cultural differences, cultural nuances that it's kind of hard to pick up on because, I don't know, because of our autism. But for me, the label is, and the diagnosis is very important. I own it completely. Well, I can't not to, because well, I'm an advocate for autism, really. So I also think it's, for me personally, it's important that I own it, just to show an example. I have my own company. I you know, I have my own job. I'm educated. You know, if I can do it, so can you. So it's also very important to show people that autism doesn't have to, you don't have to let it hold you back. So, and
Right.
also for parents who are afraid of the label, that it's not the end of the world having your child diagnosed. I mean,
one framing I really like of that set of issues, I think, is that Dave Hingsberger, who's, you know, a really powerful advocate for the human rights of disabled people, especially developmentally disabled people, puts it, self-esteem has to be based on truth. And so if we avoid having the right words to describe ourselves, or if we avoid thinking about disability, does not make us feel better about ourselves. It makes us ultimately feel worse, because we can only feel good by pretending to be someone else within that model. So I think, like, again, the power of a name can really fuel acceptance.
So that the whole discussion about language first, identity first language is about. So
right, and even aside from, there's so much stuff. Okay, I think to move on. Kat, did you have thoughts on that?
Yes, I think there's before COVID hit, I was creating a presentation about for medical professionals about the importance of connecting their clients to ADHD culture. And right now I'm doing some work researching neurodiversity and how it's portrayed in social work education. Spoiler, it's not. And I think that it's important. It's really tough for me to navigate this identity, because as a mental health professional, I can get discounted for that, and then there's also a disclosure requirement that I'm going to have to navigate in order to get certified. And you know, how do you disclose to your clients about, you know, for example, like the clients you're working with, about like your communication style or like other things. So for me, it's really interesting. The exploration that I'm doing is how I can be part of the culture and how I can create some, ask some questions that not many people have asked. For example, my own challenge is that I'm pretty bad with faces, prosopagnosia, so like face blindness. I sometimes can't tell who my clients are, and I can't tell where I know people from. And that's been kind of really interesting to navigate for me as someone who kind of has to have that skill to a degree in order to stay safe professionally. So
yeah. And just like, it gets so complicated navigating this in professional spaces where you think of it as an identity, but like certain people who have professional power over you might think of it as like inappropriate private medical information and therefore oversharing, or like having poor boundaries, or might see it as a reason to question your competence. Like, and there's also this thing where once you admit it, the power structures change a lot. Like I used to identify myself sometimes when I do introductions for this type of panel as, you know, I'm Rabbi Ruti Regan and I'm not the first autistic person JTS has ordained. So if you know any conservative rabbis, it's not rare, but nobody really talks about it except in terms of these weird, like kind of demeaning jokes about it being a problem. But so like shifting, and it also gets complicated, participating in disability culture when people have a lot of really good reasons to be wary of like anyone with a professional role, and like navigating both of those spaces just gets all kinds of complicated. Okay. So, and Patti and AI, I think, have not answered this. So if either of you would like to.
I would like to add that I'm so proud of. I just wanted to say, when we started in 2019, we didn't have any role model woman on the autistic spectrum role model in Iceland that were like, which you could like call for the media, reach out to ask questions. But now, 2020, we have 17 wonderful role models that are being stopped at the streets here in Iceland, asked questions, and thank you for, you know, sharing your story. It's just like my story, and now I can be, you know, open about it because finally there is a group of women. They're strong. They have a story. They're not hiding it anymore, and I think that is the most beautiful thing that came out of that film, out of that project.
The other thing about 17 is that makes room for autistic women to be different from each other.
Yeah.
Like when the only autistic woman that anyone has ever heard of is Temple Grandin, I just feel like I have to explain to a lot of people that actually I like people more than I like cows. And also I'm a really lousy computer programmer. So like if you want me to be your rabbi and like talk to people and do that kind of thing, great. If you want to hire me to program your computers, we're all gonna have a bad time. So, but if you have like a range of different voices, then we're like people, we can be people and not just symbols so much more. So I think that that's probably a very impactful thing. And I also think doing it in a culturally specific way really matters. Again, because I'm not sure whether the American Jewish community or Iceland is a larger group of people, but I know that like when it's only coming from when all of the voices are from outside a particular culture, it can be seen as a foreign thing when actually like we're everywhere and we're not only part of the world, we're part of the cultures we're part of, and we have a right to be in all kinds of ways. So I think that that's really important as well. Patti, did you, I don't know if you've done yet, do you?
I would just add, like, this is why I do the work I do, because I am so angry. There's a world that we live in such that it can be dangerous to be who we are. So that's what compels me. And I've experienced it in my own life and professional life as well. So, you know, how much do you reveal and how much do you conceal? And the exhaustion of that. So, and, you know, I also think I just saw in the chat that Catherine Underwood was talking about, and I was thinking this as well, like the difference between sort of being given a medical diagnosis and claiming an identity. So maybe that's something we could take up as well in the, like sort of with pride, right? And pride in the uniqueness of who we are. So
Right.
I don't identify as autistic, but I do identify in other ways as disabled. So yeah.
And I think that like professionals can tell us a lot about what we meet the diagnostic criteria for. They can't tell us who we are or what it means or how or what that means for us in relationship to the world and the cultures and groups we're part of. And I think that culture, identity, and telling our own stories is just so critical to being okay as a human, as any type of human. And I think that just making space for the fact that we have our own perspectives and that we can know what those perspectives are, and we don't need somebody else to tell us who we are and what these various physical and cognitive realities mean to us, I think can make just a really big difference in quality of life and in accessing the medical and services systems in ways that work for us and don't make us into these sort of like objectified clinical objects. So thank you everyone. I think we're either
I'm just going to pop in to thank you all. I think that's a good place to leave it. I think judging from all the comments we've been getting and the comments on Facebook, I mean, I think both of these films are about just that, are about people really claiming their own stories. And that is really what the festival is about as well. And I think, you know, whether it's in intimate ways or in large structural ways, there's so much power in the medium of film. And we hope that both groups here make us some more films. We'd love to see you continue to produce. We had a couple questions about people hoping to see more from both of these projects. So do keep going. We want to encourage you and to let you know how much we all really appreciate your work. I want to thank all of our panelists. I want to thank Rabbi Regan. And we will see you all shortly for our next event, which is Aiden Lee's film From My Side of the Spectrum. And Aiden Lee is a 16-year-old from Oakville, Ontario, who has won our inaugural Sandra Carpenter filmmaking award, student filmmaking award. So don't miss that. It's a beautiful, beautiful film about what it is to be a young person, an artist, and autistic. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you all very soon. Take care. Thank you.